Alright, today we're going to do a clutch change on Yamaha Warrior 350. Here are the parts we've ordered. We got these off of eBay. It's the Tusk High Performance Clutch Kit and the Clutch Spring Kit. We got this gasket made at the Yamaha dealership, and we also got an oil filter from the Yamaha dealership. This is the oil that we're going to be putting in the Warrior. It's a Valvoline 2050 motorcycle oil. It's made specifically for a wet clutch. Alright, we're going ahead and put an oil pan underneath the Warrior. We're using a 19mm socket to take the oil plug off. Alright, now that we've removed the oil plug, the oil strainer, and the spring, we want to check it. And we know that the clutch is out, so we can expect some clutch debris in here, but we want to check and make sure there's no metal shavings or any other things that could be a sign of any other damage. There's the clutch residue.
First step is to take off this foot peg, and to do that we need to take off this bolt here, and this bolt here, and also remove the clip here to take this push rod out so we can remove the brake lever. This bolt that was right here was a 14mm, as well as this one, and this one was a 12mm. Alright, we have to remove this cotter pin here, remove the washer, then you can just push out the pin, disconnect the brake lever, and then you can finish removing this bolt right here. And then you can also just go ahead and remove that spring and get everything out of the way.
Alright, we're going to reinstall the oil plug now. Make sure when you do it, the screen goes in first, then the spring. Then you can put the plug in.
Next step you'll need to do is you need to loosen up both of these jam nuts on the clutch cable. They're both 12mm. Just be able to pop it out, and then pull the sleeve back. You need to also bend this tab up and get it out of the way. Push this in, and the clutch cable just pops right out. Alright, next step, we're going to take off all 15 of these bolts here. They're 8mm. And they're kind of long, so we're going to use an air ratchet to do the job.
Alright, we're going ahead and put the oil pan underneath this, because the more we're taking out, a little bit more oil is seeping through.
Next thing you want to do is remove the clutch cover after taking out all the bolts. After removing the clutch cover, the next thing you'll want to do is you want to remove this bearing right here. The best way to do that is just use a magnet. The next thing you want to do after removing the bearing is you want to remove these 5 bolts here that hold on the springs. Now whenever you do this, you might want to get somebody to hold the back tires, keep this thing from rotating because it will move. Once you remove the springs, the next thing that you'll want to do is you want to remove this nut. But before you can do that, you have a lock washer right here that will be pushed up against this nut. What you'll have to do is you have to bend that flat, that way you can get a socket on it to take it off. This right here, this is the book from Climber for the Warrior 350. What it's showing right here is a clutch holding tool, and it's basically used to keep this assembly itself from moving while you remove this nut. Now what we did, we don't have that tool, so we kind of cheated a little bit. Luckily we've got air here, so we used an impact, and a screwdriver right in here to keep this from rotating. And it worked out pretty well. As you see, we've got the nut off. And what you would use is a 1/16" socket. Alright, the next step would be to actually remove this here. This would be the actual hub for all the clutch packs. If you want to, you can just kind of put a screwdriver in here and just kind of pry it out a little bit. Well, here we go. Pull it all out in one piece. And here's your clutch pack. What you want to do, you want to flip this on its top just like that. You can remove this back plate just like that. Set it off to the side. And here we go. Here are the clutch packs. Alright, right now we are putting back together the new clutch packs. And then alternate between the friction material and the steel plates. Alright, before we put everything back together, we're going to kind of clean this up just a little bit. I got a can of brake clean, and we're just going to kind of spray it down just a little bit. All of this is the leftover friction material from the old clutch. The clutch pack will look like when it's all assembled. One thing that you will need to make sure that you do, see this arrow here? And there's a small little arrow back here. You might have to give it a try a couple times to get all 5 of these to line up in the holes right. And make sure the splines line up back here whenever you put everything in. We've also installed one of the old clutch springs with the bolt to kind of keep this and this together while we install it. One thing you also want to make sure is you torque down this nut properly. The torque for this is 59 foot-pounds. We didn't have a torque wrench, so we used a impact. But you'll also want to make sure that when you do so, just kind of roll it back and forth. Make sure that it spins freely. If it doesn't spin at all, you've done something wrong. Remember, whenever you're putting this back on, make sure you also bend this tab back out so it lays flat against this nut. We have so far installed all 5 new clutch springs and the pressure plate as well, and all 5 bolts. Right now we're going to tighten them down to a torque specification of 6 foot-pounds. Next, you want to put the push rod back in and the bearing. All you gotta do, assemble it just like that, and slip it in. The next step we're gonna do is we're gonna clean off this old gasket material with a cutoff wheel with a special gasket removing tool.
While we're doing the clutch, we're going to go ahead and replace the oil filter before we put new oil in it. I'm going to use my Allen wrench and loosen all 3 of these. Alright, I've loosened and about to take out the last bolt here. Pull that off. And you want to check, make sure this O-ring is still in good shape, and this one is. And then the filter, you want to take that out and check, and there's some part of the, see there's some oil sludge or some part of the clutch. Well, now I want to clean this out and get any of the particles out of there. So yeah, with this clean, go ahead and install your new filter, and then go ahead and put the cap back on. Sure you clean the inside of this out before you put it back on there. I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up, and that'll be done. Alright, on your cover here, you want to make sure that you have thoroughly gotten the old gasket off. We used a little die grinder and got that off there. Also, you want to make sure you clean all this out, all the debris in there. We used some brake cleaning fluid. Just going to kind of wipe off anything that I see. I went ahead and put on the clutch cover gasket, and I want to put a bolt in over here so I can lift this and set it on there properly. Place the clutch cover up here and put the bolt in right here. That way the gasket wouldn't slide off. I'll go ahead and put all the rest of the bolts in now. Go ahead and put all the bolts in. Just put them in finger tight. Missing that one. But anyway, your longer bolts will go there and right there. Those are where your dowel pins are. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and put these in a little bit tighter. I'm going to do a crisscross pattern here. I almost forgot to hook up the linkage for this clutch cable. It goes right here where these two bolts are. I'm going to have to take those back off and put that back on there. Anyways, it faces, the little U shape faces down. I want to go ahead and reconnect the cable here. Alright, remember you can use a 12mm wrench here to tighten this nut back up. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and reconnect the foot pegs now. Remember there's a bolt here, here, and here that I've got to connect. Reconnected the brake lever here, put the pin in, put the little cotter pin back in and that little washer, and reconnected the spring right here. So everything has been reassembled. Alright, before we put the oil in, I'm going to go ahead and check and make sure it does go into gear. We'll go down here and make sure it's in first. And I will see if it'll move any. And seems to be staying in gear. Move your cap. Alright, I just put the third and final quart of oil in here. And that's how you change your clutch on a Warrior 350. Hope that helped you guys.